All right. Welcome to another episode of Humans of Flippa. I'm your host, Steve McGarry, and I am joined today by Benjamin Seer. And he was the founder of a company called EverCleaner that he exited on Flippa. And EverCleaner was a really well-known sustainable cleaning brand in Australia. And they saved basically 1 million plastic bottles from the environment, which I think is super cool. Really great mission, and overall, a lot of really great metrics coming to Flippa. He's currently the director over at his new agency, Blitz Growth. So, how's it going, Benjamin?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to really kind of unpack this exit journey. So, to start, let's kind of talk about the startup story. Like, how did you begin with entrepreneurship and then transition into EverCleaner?
Cool. I had started a business called Hummingbird, which was like healthy breakfast as a subscription, in about 2016. And on that journey, I learned a lot about packaging. Packaging food is actually particularly difficult, and even more difficult if you want to try and minimize the amount of packaging. If you want to make it recyclable or even biodegradable, it's really difficult because food obviously has a best before date, and the less the barriers, the less long the shelf life of the product. So I was kind of forced into looking into packaging quite a lot. And after I sold that business, I was kind of really into the whole packaging side of things. I did something else in the meantime, but then a few years later, um, this trend of adding water to tabs or any type of like cleaning product to turn it into a real fully functional cleaning product was kind of rising. So that combined with this like knowledge about packaging and the desire to reduce that really, really stuck with me and my co-founder Caspar. And yeah, it was a no-brainer. We kind of didn't even have to talk about it very long. We were like, this is something really cool. It had a lot of benefits, not only on the packaging side. It also, because we were only sending small products, we're also reducing the CO2 emissions. We focused on eco-friendly ingredients. So the products were overall a lot softer, I'd say, than the regular harsh chemicals you'd find in like retail products. But they were just good enough in terms of their strength to like also qualify as cleaning products. So it's like also there was kind of a balance to be in the middle. Um, and then yeah, this beautiful kind of mission of reducing single-use plastic bottles was kind of the focus and the center of this mission because it was a very tangible goal. And even though we had all these other benefits, the single-use plastic is what we really focused on and tried to kind of keep at the core also when we develop new products. So anything we thought in the cleaning space or in the household space that could reduce a single-use plastic bottle, that's kind of what we thought was interesting for the EverCleaner range.
Very cool. Very cool. So, from the beginning, was this kind of designed to sell eventually just because you came from a previous business that you'd exited? So would you say that you kind of started from day one with the idea that you were going to sell it?
No, but I'd say we were like always open to whatever happens. We were just keen to build, and then happy to stay with it for 50 years if it like kind of worked for us, or sell it if the opportunity came up. So from day one, what we did do is always focus on growth rather than profitability. So um, we're kind of yeah, with an online marketing background, Casper and myself kind of like really dialed into what the unit economics need to look like, how much money can we spend on marketing, what are our retention rates, and kind of like did that math over and over again, almost like weekly, to understand how much we can invest into performance marketing. So we always favored growth over profit, and that's why we also grew pretty quickly. And yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
Nice. Nice. And that's a good segue into like how you guys generated revenue. What was the sort of business model? It just all direct to consumer? Was it retail? How did you guys approach it?
Yep. So from day one, we were kind of like, we know online marketing. That's what we're going to focus on. And we're going to kind of limit our, uh, well, focus on the things that we know and probably not invest too much time in the things we don't know. So we wanted to kind of make sure that with the limited resources we have, we're just going to get the biggest bang for our buck. And so we really focused on Meta and TikTok performance marketing. We did a bit of Google, and that was really the core of the growth. We also had retailers come to us every now and then. Ad spend went up pretty quickly. So you also just get like the average buyer at a retail store who sees the ad and thinks, oh, maybe we should stock this. So every now and then we actually got inquiries for retailers, medium sized and the biggest ones. The medium sized we then also listed. The biggest ones, that was a huge process. And that was kind of something that really also deferred our focus because we got inquiries from them and we said, okay, we kind of have to take this opportunity. And then we did it, and it like, because we knew nothing about retail packaging, how the listing works, how those kind of negotiations usually should go. I think it took a lot of energy and time to understand that. In hindsight, it's always easy to say it was a mistake, but at the time, it was like very very exciting to be asked by the biggest retailers in Australia to list. And then their strategy changed. Ukraine war, inflation, costs went up, and they wanted to focus less on eco-friendly and less expensive products. Not saying that EverCleaner was super expensive, but more expensive than maybe their like home brand range. And so they made up shelf space for their own brands with higher margins and lower prices for the end consumer. So that ranging actually didn't work out, and we put a lot of effort into it. So I think that was just a learning along the way, I guess. But it's just the way it is.
Got it. And what made you decide that the time was right to sell?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we were running the agency at the same time too. And we kind of figured that EverCleaner is a lot of work. And we're also serving agency clients, and we kind of are spreading ourselves too thin. So we kind of decided where we wanted to take this, and we didn't see much potential in growing it much further in Australia. So we saw that maybe we could grow it a little bit, but if we really wanted to make it a big business and really save a lot of plastic bottles, we had to go international. And both Casper and myself weren't too excited about that because with a physical product, we're trying to save emissions and save plastic. Starting to like create that all over the world didn't really work for us. And then the alternative would be to set up distribution hubs within other countries, and therefore we would have had to raise capital. So it was kind of like either we go really big and try to do it as big as possible, or we sell it. And we both also find a lot of excitement in doing marketing for various other businesses and not just one. So the agency model also really talks to us as just people and how we like to work. So yeah, it kind of all fit together, and we said, okay, let's give it a shot. Maybe someone wants to buy it, and we put it on Flippa.
Nice. Very nice. And how did Flippa support you throughout the sale?
So our broker Fiona, we had already met a few years prior at an event. Just had a chat, connected, and then I think I just vaguely remembered meeting her, and then I just reached out to her, and she said, "Yep, sure, let's give it a shot." I think for us, the first thing was to understand what she thinks we might get for it. Because we were like, okay, if it's like nothing or very little, is it worth it? Then we might as well keep it because it wasn't profitable. Um, and so the number she initially indicated sounded really interesting to us. So we were like, okay, let's give it a shot. So she helped us with everything. So the broker obviously kind of does all the groundwork and sets it up and does the profile and I don't know, sends out emails and things like that. And then of course, she also responded to all the inquiries and kind of tried to funnel them and only give the most yeah, interesting ones pass on to us. So yeah, that's kind of how it worked. I'd say it was very smooth in the setup process. Um, and also the calls that we had that she kind of yeah, arranged for us were also quite productive. So it was good.
Nice. Very nice. And what steps did you do to prepare? Like, how did you get the business ready to really start attracting buyers?
Yep. So we actually decided about 12 months prior that we will try and sell it. So we kind of prepped for that. We um, made sure that we reduced the spends in unprofitable or less efficient areas of the business. Um, we made sure that the revenue wasn't decreasing, but that it was like stable while focusing on EBITDA growth, and rather trying to kind of like make it look um, more interesting for someone who's after profit. Because if you show it to someone and you're doing a few million dollars in revenue, but you have no profit, they'll be wondering why. But it was very easy for us to change that over time because we knew the business pretty well, and it was also set up pretty uh, lenient. So yeah, like 12 months before, we kind of decided how to change things and how to just make it more of a stable, profitable business rather than a growing, uh, unprofitable or growing only slightly profitable business.
Hmm. And how
I
did you?
think Sorry, I just finished. I had another thought. Um, I think if we were in a larger space, if the business was bigger, um, say 10 million plus, I think we wouldn't have changed as much when it comes to the profitability.
Mhm.
Because in that category, probably buyers appreciate the size and other efficiencies. But when we're talking about buyers who like go after small businesses, it might be their like biggest investment in a while. They actually want to see uh, a return over time without having to change too much or without even having to understand if they can change too much. So I think we kind of try to identify what this buyer would look like and then customized the business setup to that buyer.
Mhm. And how'd you land on valuation? Was it multiple of profit? How did you
Yeah,
come to
I
it?
think it was F Fiona said she'll have a think about it and then get back to us. And then I don't know exactly if she just like benchmarked it against other businesses, but it was we had a number in mind that was a multiple of our profit, and I think it was about two, maybe two and a half. That was kind of what we had in mind. Um, and then Fiona's suggestion was very similar to that, so we're like, okay, that's kind of aligned with what we were hoping for, and yeah, that kind of worked out.
Nice. And when it comes to the broker, you said her name was Fiona. What kind of role did she play in the whole thing? Like, were you guys doing weekly calls? What was her role like?
Yeah. So I think in the beginning, like in the first week after launching it, it was like, what's going on? We want to know more. It's going crazy. We've got all these inquiries. Are they legit? Like, is anything interesting? Um, but then after the first week, we kind of understood where things are going and how it usually works. And we had a weekly call with Fiona, and basically she gave us yeah, little pieces of advice when a potential buyer came in, and she's kind of gave us some context if she had some. For instance, the one who bought EverCleaner in the end was like a serial Flippa customer and had bought like many other businesses in the past. So she had dealt with him before and kind of knew the way he is, and gave us like tips as to what she thinks is realistic, how he's going to operate. So it was, yeah, it was very valuable. I think it would have been one, quite time consuming, but also two, maybe not as good as an outcome if we hadn't had a broker.
Hmm. And how long did the whole process end to end take?
Not too long. I think we went live in February and we sold in early February and we sold in late April.
Got it. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And what kind of make or break pivotal decisions happened throughout the negotiation process? I think this is a really fun uh, kind of thought exercise of like what
Yeah.
type of decisions had to be made.
For us, the main reason was we were spreading ourselves too thin and we wanted to focus on one thing. So
Hmm.
for us, it was really interesting if a buyer was keen to just take over without having us stay on board for years or even just months. We were willing to stay on board for a certain period, maybe like 3 months would probably have been an option, but many of the buyers were like, "Oh, we want you to stay on board, and I need you to understand everything and how it's going. And could we then connect your uh, final payout to certain milestones we want to reach and all that?" Kind of obvious as a buyer. Like I don't think it's a bad thing to ask, but for us it was like the business is now quite profitable. If we just keep it and rank in the profit for ourselves, we might as well do that rather than work for someone else and get a little bit more for the buying price. So we didn't really see that as a great option, because we wanted to focus our time on other things. So that was kind of the core decision making element. And then there was only one buyer who really offered that. So he said, "Yeah, I don't need you. I have an e-commerce team. I have many businesses. I understand marketing. I understand the product. I understand the sourcing and all that, the logistics. You don't have to stay on board at all. Maybe you're available for some questions here and there, but I don't need you." And that kind of really um, got us excited about selling.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what kind of lessons could you share that you learned that other entrepreneurs listening to this could find value from?
Um, I think it makes it harder if you build something to sell it from day one. Um, so if you always build to sell, um, I think then just like from a vision perspective, you're limited. Um, and if you just go in there to build something, ideally something you care about, but it doesn't have to be something like uh you think about day and night, but still something that somehow touches you. I think that is the best way to build a business, and then maybe after a few years you can start thinking about a sale if you want to. But I, yeah, I don't really see much coming from someone who wants to sell from the start, because I don't know. I feel like they cut corners, or it kind of incentivizes you to cut corners if you say it's going to be sold anyway soon. So um, yeah, I think that's number one. Um, Number two would, um, I'd probably say find something um, that, if you're in the e-commerce space, find something that works cross-regional, or find something that can be scaled if you want to scale. Not everyone wants to scale their business, but if you want to scale, find something that can be scaled either in your geography or something that can easily go beyond. I think that was something we had to learn the hard way, I guess, but uh yeah, at the same time, if you don't do it, we might have not started at all. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard to say. But I think, yeah, if we had chosen something where internationalization would be easier, we might still be working on it. Who knows? Um, but yeah, it depends. If you're like really up for scale, then you kind of should already think about scale from day one. If you're just building a little profitable business and you're happy with that, and little, of course, is relative, then that's the way it is.
And if you could do anything different, if you could go back and change something that you did and make it differently, maybe through the journey of the entire exit, what would it be?
Um, do something different. I think, so what we tried to do was focus on online marketing. And I said that going for retail kind of distracted us. Um, but maybe having a plan in place from the start as to, are we an online only player, or are we also an omni-channel player? If the answer was omni-channel player, then we might have either got someone on board or a consultant or someone to actually also help with an omni-channel approach, so that we kind of, we're not we're not just like going with the flow, but we it's our choice to be in a certain place. Um, I think that that's number one. But then um, there's also, like, of course, always upsides and downsides of being online only. Um, so I think the upside is that we knew what we were doing and we could focus on it. I think the downside is you're very dependent on basically two platforms, that's Meta and TikTok. And if the CPMs and the acquisition cost increases, there's not that much you can do, right? You can like kind of shift from one side to the other. You can try to innovate your content. You can try to build better products. Um, but at the end, you're kind of at their discretion, and depending on how well those platforms work, for you, that's how well your business is running. So if you go retail only, you have the same issue with the major retailers, right? You only have so many that you can choose from. So I think if if I could, I would probably say build it up as an omni-channel brand right from the start, understanding that there's different, that both channels have different demands and that you have to approach them differently, maybe even like with different products or at least variations of each. Um, and then, yeah, have a plan in place, and a strategy around it rather than just like taking it on.
And a lot of entrepreneurs have challenges throughout the sales process, myself included. I think there's a lot that can go wrong. So how do you think that you avoided some of the pitfalls when it came to finding the buyer and just going through the transaction?
I think number one, we really thought about it like that year prior to actually putting it online. Well, it wasn't quite a year, maybe like 8 months. We really sat down and workshopped what selling the business could look like. And at that stage, we kind of um, decided what we needed to change, what things needed to look like. We talked to people who had sold their business or had bought businesses, and we kind of understood the overall landscape of buying and selling a business. I think that was really, really helpful. And we talked to like a very, very seasoned entrepreneur who had sold his business for many millions, and um, yeah, kind of, he really helped us understand what we need to look out for. Gave us a bit of like negotiation strategy, not in terms of like get the most of it, but kind of understanding psychology around it, and um, what offer to take and what offer not to take, based on what you have decided prior. So, as I said earlier, for us, it was really important that we didn't stay on board very long. That made things very clear. Like, it was very easy to make a choice. We took a hit on the price, on the sale price, but therefore we got exactly the outcome we wanted in terms of our time, which was like really, really valuable to us. Um, so I think that really helped just staying clear. Um, and then, yeah, that, I think that's number one. And then we were probably also lucky that the buyer was like very straightforward, not much back and forth. And yeah, I think we, for both sides, found an agreement that worked out. So I think that was definitely also a bit of luck there.
Nice. Nice. So post sale, I know that you're working on Blitz, but did you take a break between the sale of EverCleaner and the new business?
I wish. No, we didn't. We kind of like I think the last negotiation then took a little bit longer than we expected. So it was like, I don't know, 2 weeks where we kind of knew we're selling it, but it hadn't actually happened. And so we were kind of like sitting there. We weren't sure if we're allowed to be happy yet or not. And so we got used to the thought of having sold it without having that moment where it's like, we've sold it, pop the bottles. But it came slow, and that's why when it didn't actually happen, we were kind of prepared and didn't have this, I don't know, this moment. Maybe a little bit on the day we signed it, but it wasn't crazy. But I think the feeling of then having sold it was underwhelming, because what happened to me, and I don't think it happened as much to Casper, was that I kind of thought, I just sold this to someone who thinks he can do it better than me. Why can't I do it as good as him? And I kind of started questioning why we sold it and if that was the right decision. And unfortunately that feeling was more overwhelming or stronger than the excitement of selling it. So yeah, that took a few weeks, and that went away again, and I kind of told myself, and I talked to Casper about it, that the very reason we sold it was because we wanted to focus on one of the things, and that was the plan and all that. But yeah, just second thoughts, and funnily enough, when you think you sell your business, I mean, it wasn't like we're going to retire for the rest of our lives, but it was still a nice bit of nice sale. So I thought the feeling would be different. If you asked me beforehand, I thought the feeling would be different, but it's also another thing you learn, and just adds to your experience. And maybe one day, who knows, we're going to sell another business, and I'm prepared. I know that feeling might come, and then I can maybe cherish it even more. I don't know.
And would you say that, you mentioned time briefly, but would you say your definition of success has changed after going through the exit?
Yes, probably. Like for us, I think we had EverCleaner just over 3 years. That felt like a long time while we were grinding. But then when you look back at it, 3 years is absolutely nothing. And we managed to build a business that was doing some serious revenue, and we sold it. So suddenly 3 years seems like a really, really short time when you look at it from the other side of the sale. So yeah, I think that actually does change a lot. And if you think about how much you can do in 3 years, I don't know what we're going to do in 10 years is kind of like the exciting part. What's going to happen in the next 10 years is kind of got more exciting since.
Yeah. So final question is, do you think you'll sell another business in the future? Do you think you're going to build one and sell it?
I don't doubt it. Yeah, I think so. Or at least I'm going to build another one. Who knows if I'm going to sell it, but I'm definitely going to build another one. We're focusing on the agency right now, which is of course also a business, but it's not the typical like exit type of business. So we're going to focus on that for as long as we like, and build and see what comes from it. But I could imagine that we'd might do something else one day. Yeah.
Very nice. And where can people learn more about the agency?
Just on blitzgrowth.com. We do marketing for e-commerce businesses and apps mainly. And we have a really strong focus on meta and the performance side of it, making creative work together with the numbers. That's kind of what we really focus on, because we see that there's a lot of creative content out there that isn't structured properly and doesn't return the learnings that it should. So that's kind of like our core mission, is to really drill in that, create some great content, and then learn from it.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your Flippa exit journey here, Benjamin.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve.
For sure. And wherever you guys are listening or watching on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube, be sure to subscribe and check out the links in the description for any information on Benjamin. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.